Hey, it's been a while. Sorry about that. Creative blocks can be kind of difficult to deal with at times, but I figured since we've gotten quite a bit of gaming news in the last little bit, it might be a good idea to get back into the swing of things with just going over my thoughts on everything that's been announced lately. Starting with my old faithful, good old Nintendo. So when I loaded up the Direct, I was a bit behind the live release, meaning I ended up getting a full page of ads for like 10 minutes and didn't even realize. All the while thinking, wow, they really don't have anything new to announce, do they? Oops, silly me. Anyways, Rhythm Heaven seems pretty cute. I don't really have much thoughts on the game, and I've never really tried rhythm games before, but it looks like it'd be fun to play if someone else were to let me give it a shot. Onimusha looks absolutely insane. I'm always a huge fan of big fantasy-type games, which there's no shortage of this time around, but the fact that this is a game that focuses so heavily on the swordplay and allows you to use motion controls when doing it means it'll either be really good, or we're gonna be getting another Skyward Sword. I'm hoping for the former, but, you know, gotta keep my expectations realistic. Dragon's Dogma is looking like it's just gonna be another Dark Souls-esque game, another thing there's no shortage of this time around. I've always been really interested in trying Stellar Blade. It looks like it would be really fun, and gives me similar vibes to Nier Automata, and considering there's a sequel on the way, now might be the best time ever to actually give it a shot. Orbital looks like an homage to older anime art styles, which is something I can always appreciate as an anime fan, though I don't know if I'm necessarily gonna jump into this one myself. Speaking of anime, the One Piece game is really funny considering the context of the show. I don't watch One Piece at all, but I'm pretty sure that most of these characters would not be going to a restaurant hosted by one of their mortal enemies. Jujutsu Kaisen also decides to take a little bit of a stint into the anime game world, which seems like an odd choice for a roguelike versus battle, but I'm not gonna complain or play it. And I have to ask, is Pokopia any good? Like, I've heard it was a well-received game, and I have some friends who say they've really enjoyed it, but personally, I never saw much of a reason to get into it, and I don't really think the DLC is gonna change my mind on that. But is it, like, actually a good game? Let me know. So, a franchise that I don't really get many opportunities to talk about on this channel, just due to the nature of it, is Fire Emblem, and Three Houses is actually one of my favorite games in the series. While it doesn't quite beat out Awakening in terms of playtime, the fact that it had 4 distinct routes makes Fire Emblem Three Houses one of the most enjoyable games I've ever had, and it had some of the better character writing across the series too, which was also a big bonus. I think it's really cool that Fortune's Weave is taking place in Dagda. I think stepping away from Fodlan was probably the right choice considering how much time we've already spent there, but this game leaves me with a whole bunch of questions. I mean, Sothis is in it, and it seems like there's still a major conflict, but wasn't Sothis only really a goddess in Fodlan? And also, how is she still around? Is it a prequel? Is it a sequel? We don't really know, and I'm sure it'll be revealed as time goes on, but I'm still pretty curious. That being said, boy, 4 different routes is gonna eat up my playtime so much. Three Houses already has like over 400 hours in it, and I do not want to do that with another Fire Emblem game, so we'll have to see how much I dive into this one. The Donkey Kong Challenge looks pretty cool. I don't have Bonanza, so I'm kind of wondering if I should pick it up at some point, but I will say any game that has this particular image is always going to get a win in my books. Lord of the Fallen looks like it wants me to play Black Myth Wukong, which is another game that's been on my radar, so, you know, again, maybe I'll check that out. Lies of Pi, or Lies of P, is Dark Souls, but they decided to make it Expedition 33. Muramasa looks really neat. I actually really like any sort of side-scrolling game that has this sort of sprite art style, so I'm hoping that it's one that I really enjoy. And I need to play Xenoblade 1 and 3. I've played 2, and it's genuinely one of the most fun gaming experiences I've had in a while, but while I do own the definitive edition for Xenoblade 1, I just haven't gotten around to starting another 80-hour JRPG. If you can't tell based on my normal reaction to a lot of these things, and what will come later, I'm a really big fan of JRPGs, but boy do they eat up my time. I've gotta say though, the expansion for Xenoblade 1 is hilarious. 2 and 3 get different gameplay modes and features, meanwhile in Xenoblade 1 you get a motorcycle. There was one final bit of Xenoblade news, that being Xenoblade Genesis. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not 100% sure how to feel about this one yet. Obviously, it's early days, and based on everything, it kind of seems like it's gonna be a prequel type game, rather than something that would follow logically from the rest of Xenoblade, and I'm aware that all of these games do take place in different universes, making it a little bit harder to know for sure what the technological level or anything like that is supposed to be. That being said, it does kind of feel like what would happen if you were to take Fire Emblem and cross it with Final Fantasy, rather than something I would expect out of Xenoblade. Like many a child growing up, I have plenty of fond memories of playing the Wii sports games on the, well, Wii. But the Switch sports games seem to be doing some interesting things. I don't fully understand why they decided to remove sword fighting from the resort game and put it in the sports game, and then put boxing in the resort game, considering those two were switched on the Wii, but it's certainly an interesting decision. That being said, I don't like the look of the new sports Miis at all. I feel like they're kind of stuck between being Mii characters and Pokemon characters, and as a result, kind of look bad compared to even the original Miis, which is crazy considering how old those are, but that could just be the nostalgia talking. Also, thumb wrestling is hilarious. I can't believe that they thought this was supposed to be a major seller for the game, to the point where they even used it as the demo. And I've gotta say, while I like the risk-reward system, it doesn't look particularly fun. Hello Kitty is getting a Mario Party game for some reason. Star Fox is a game series that I've never really touched on, but I will say I can understand why people are frustrated that this game is effectively just another remake, especially when the designs are divisive, to say the least. Honestly, the biggest thing I get out of this is just a craving for a new Kid Icarus game. Dragon Quest looks like a Pokemon game, to the point where I thought it was looking at the font of the trailer, but if anything it kinda seems to play more like a Digimon story game, so I guess that's kinda neat. Now, Deltarune Chapter 5 is finally announced. Look, I'm not trying to rush the creative process on these. I can acknowledge the fact that this is essentially 7 games that's being turned into a single narrative, but I'm not gonna lie and say that I wasn't super excited to see this game given how long it's been since the last 2 chapters were dropped. I have them on PC, so I'll hopefully be able to play them pretty soon, but I also do need to go back and play Chapter 1 and 2 on PC if I want to get all the Shadow Crystals, because I played those on a different system that wasn't on Steam, meaning my save data isn't there. I really need to play Metaphor ReFantazio sometime soon. I have it in my Steam library, I just, again, haven't had the time to get around to an 80-hour game, and I've gotta ask, how is Minecraft not on the Switch yet? Maybe it was already on the Switch and this is just a Switch 2 specific version, but I've gotta say, it seems weird to have a game this big not already be on the system. Now, I am not a huge Kingdom Hearts fan in the sense that I've only really played 1 and 2 through completion, and I've got to admit, I'm stuck on Chain of Memories and it is one of the most boring games I've ever played, even though I'm playing the remake of it. But, with that being said, I am interested in Kingdom Hearts 4, and really do want to give the rest of the series a proper playthrough. I have all the games already, so I won't be springing for any collections, but 4 looks like it's going to be really interesting, especially considering it uses the chain for, I think, the first time ever in the series. Combat, as you'd expect, looks really flashy, and I like the idea that this is a more realistic and grounded world that looks more Final Fantasy than it does Disney, considering that 3 was mostly Disney as opposed to Final Fantasy. And then there's the big one. Anybody who is anyone in the Zelda community has played Ocarina of Time, which is why I'm not anyone in the Zelda community. While I have played through a few Zelda games, like Link to the Past, Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, or Majora's Mask, I never actually finished Ocarina of Time. While I have played most of the game, when I was about 6 temples in, meaning like right before the final boss, my dog ended up eating the cartridge, so I never actually got around to finishing it. And it was kind of hard to go back knowing how much I had to do, so I never really finished the game. I'm hoping the remake gives me a bit of an incentive to, even if it's only revisiting the 3DS remake instead of the new one, but I will say I'm not 100% sure how to feel about Link's new look yet. I just think Zelda is one of those series that doesn't really lend itself to overly realistic graphics, kind of like Pokemon or Mario. So I guess we'll see how it grows on me with time, but for now, I think it looks pretty cool. Now let's step away from Nintendo for a second and talk about other franchises. As I've talked about before, I'm a huge fan of big spanning JRPGs, so as you could probably imagine, Persona 4 Revival is 100% on my list of must-check-outs. I've played the original game and actually made a video talking about what sort of things I would want to see in the remake, if you want to go check that out. But I'm really hyped for this one. I don't really know what to say about it outside of that. It looks amazingly stylized. It looks like it's trying to keep the heart and spirit of the original game while updating it with what would be a more modern Persona aesthetic, taking notes from Persona 5 and 3 Reload. I'm not 100% sure how to feel about the new voice actors yet. Now, I will acknowledge, I think it's fine that they've been updated. The last game was like 15 years old, old, and some of the old VAs don't even really work in voice acting anymore, or have moved on to bigger paying projects, and would probably be hard to get back. But I don't know, man. Yosuke's new voice just doesn't feel like Yosuke to me. And I'm sure they'll grow on me with time. It sounds like the voice actors are doing fine work. I'm not trying to insult what they've put out. It just, when you have characters that have been around this long and have really iconic voice actors, it's going to be a bit of an adjustment. I feel like the way I'm feeling about this is probably how a lot of Persona 3 fans felt about that game. Persona 6 has finally been announced, and it gave us literally no information. It looks like a found footage movie, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes, but what even is going on? Now let's look at the PlayStation side of things. Final Fantasy VII is finally getting the third part of its remake, which seems interesting. I've wanted to play these games for a while, but I unfortunately could not justify dropping $80 per third of a game, considering that while they are incredibly polished, it wasn't a finished story yet. Having never played a Final Fantasy game before, this will probably be something I look at as my introduction to the series, though I'm ideally probably going to try and wait for it to be bundled together as a single playable experience rather than getting them all one after another, especially because it would probably allow me to carry over my save data more easily between the three. Finally, let's touch on the Capcom games. Resident Evil's getting its newest entry in a Code Veronica remake. Personally speaking, I am super excited for this one. While I've yet to play through Resident Evil 9, though I do have it, I still love the franchise and would love to make more content on it if I could just get some ideas or figure out what I wanted to do with it. I'm kind of wondering what happened in the trailer though, because it does look like it glitched a few times. Maybe it was an internet thing, but it seems like the trailer itself was having some issues with either the lip flaps not matching the voice or just stuttering and then going back to a moment that had already played. I don't know what it is, but maybe it's just, an error in the creation of the trailer rather than in the game engine itself, and of course there's still plenty of time to polish it. Street Fighter VI is getting some new characters, including Tifa Lockhart for some reason. I love the idea, and I'm totally open to it, it just seems like a strange addition to the cast. And of course, I think it's all important that we take a second to collectively pour one out for all the Devil May Cry fans who've had their dreams crushed of ever getting a sixth game. Even better, considering Nintendo announced that they would be putting 5 on Switch after 7 years of the game already being out. I am so sorry for you guys. I promise I will finish playing through the rest of this series because I've only finished 3 and need to finish 1, 2, 4, and 5 at some point as well. It looks really cool, I don't know, the gameplay's a little bit antiquated with the camera being my biggest enemy, which is a problem I have with a lot of old games, but that's unrelated. Anyway, before we wrap up, I just want to pose a quick question for you guys. There are a lot of games on here that are really fun, but would probably take a lot of time to actually make content for, and I'm curious if you guys would be interested in watching some streams. So if you guys would let me know down below, or maybe I'll make a community poll, probably both, and just let me know if you maybe want to watch weekly streams, then I would appreciate it. Thanks for sticking it through to the end. I hope you guys enjoyed. Consider subscribing, commenting, and liking the video and all that, and I'll see you soon.